Yes, hi, hello. Fuck you, it's Gooncast, horror garbage. I'm Jams something or other. I don't give a shit anymore.
That's our good buddy Saber0307 over on Twitch. I'm Kat, aka the Attack Cat on Twitch. Dialect designer by day, writer slash horror enthusiast by night.
And I am Pazuzu. It's your boy Lee Alder, the Valley Jester. I am not a Mesopotamian demon. But
that's what they all say, Lee.
Listen. I will not expose my balls on podcast, okay?
Well, not yours. Just Neil Breen's.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Someone has to.
Yes. True.
What's up, fuckers? So dig this. I know we here at the Gooncast kind of have a tendency to gloss over the things that are, topical and new and big for the time so that we can focus on true pieces of art like Axum. But folks, today we got not one, not two, but three things that are actually still somewhat quasi-relevant.
And one of them
we sold out, folks.
One of them may surprise you.
Gasp.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you're talking about, actually.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it because we're not there yet, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was certainly surprised by one of them. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, okay, then I do think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have, I don't know, we've got, like, a really mixed bag, I think, but at the same time, a strange through line. Sort of like our corn episode.
Yes, indeed.
The topic is dead kids. I would even
go as far to say it's a good, bad, and ugly situation.
Yes, that's a great, yes, that's perfect. So first up to bat, do you guys dig on patriarchies?
Oh god. So this is becoming one of our favorite things to talk about here on the Gooncast, is this trend of taking horror franchises and breathing new life into them by sucking in the same stagnant crypt air that they were buried in.
It's basically your pool float from, like, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, like a pool float that you may have for your pool.
Okay.
And it's old and it's beaten down and you should really get a new one, but you just keep fucking inflating it because you don't want to throw it away. And then it gets like a rip in it, so you like throw some tape on it. And this is the Exorcist believer. It is a fucking rank piece of shit that starts off moderately promising before devolving into absolute fucking dreck.
Yeah. So, to start with, I think that, so this is our, I think I can safely say this is our bad of our good, bad, and ugly. But yeah, I mean, it starts promising enough. There's, the intro scene is, basically like this guy and his pregnant wife are in like a third world country. And I want to say they're doing some kind of like religious mission stuff, but
they're in Haiti.
Yeah,
and
they're
like
talking
vacation,
to like
basically.
Yeah, they're talking to locals and like they interact with some
themselves in the culture.
Yeah, they interact with some like religious or like spiritual ceremony or something like that. And then a terrible earthquake hits and the wife is injured in such a way that the doctors are like, well, we can only, the typical movie, like, you gotta choose, it's your baby or your wife. And it's like, oh shit, okay. And then we cut to 10 years or 12 years later, and it's, the guy's a single dad with his, like, teenage daughter, so it's like, oh, okay, all right, I see where this is going. And then we basically, like, the entire first act is very reminiscent of the movie Prisoners, insofar as it's, like, it's mostly focused on the dad and the other family trying to figure out, like, their two daughters have disappeared, and they're trying to figure out, like, what the fuck happened. And I like Lee and I feel like we're sitting there going like, hey, this ain't so bad, actually.
Yeah,
I think the first act of this film is good.
Yes.
I think it's interesting and promising, but the thing that holds me back from like really, really liking the first act is how fucking blunt and overt they were with the two girls going off into the woods and doing spooky shit. If they just went into the woods and we had no idea why.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because I don't need to know that. I don't need to see him fuck around with a Ouija board or whatever.
Yes, they basically like out the gate go, it's a demon, and it's kind of like, okay, we get it. We signed up for an Exorcist film. We know it's gonna be a demon, but at the very least, you can kind of give me a little bit of the slow burn reminiscent of the original if you're really gonna ape on the original that hard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they don't do that. They're just like straight up like I think they play with the Ouija board and then it's like it's really obvious that like right away it's a demon. And you're just kind of like, well, that, there's not really an air of mystery now for this whole first act.
No.
It was a real quick Phasmo investigation.
It's they go out.
Back in the van, guys.
They go out into some fucking woods and get into a storm drain, and like they're using like some candles for some seance to contact the dead mom, and then boom, they're missing. And like the investigation process and like the kids being missing and like all that stuff, it was working. We had some strong performances and some mystery as to where the kids are and all that fun stuff. And at least for me,
Leslie Autumn Jr., who plays the lead, Victor, I thought he was fucking great.
Yeah, he was really solid.
He did a fantastic job.
He really sold that role of like, helpless, desperate father.
Yeah.
No,
he did a really solid performance there. But then Act 2 starts.
Yeah, the minute they find the girls for me is when the movie just falls apart.
Yeah.
Right. I want to touch on one thing before we dig back into Act 2, and that's my two favorite words in modern Hollywood: tact and subtlety. So the two kids are friends at school. Okay, one is white, one is black. Now, they're playing this angle of like, okay, the different ways that they're raised by their parents, the set of expectations is different. Like, Victor and his daughter have a little bit more of like a, their friends and father-daughter relationship. The other kid is much more of like a, you have a strict set of expectations as our daughter and you must reach them, and don't you hang out with that colored kid. And it's like, oh, we're already starting to get into that questionable territory.
Yeah. And there's also, I think, some element of like parentification with her too. Like she's one of like 6 kids or something like that. And so she's kind of like also expected to do house shit for them, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
She's got like 2 or 3 siblings, and it's
like a very strong contrast between them.
Right, and I ultimately don't know what the point of it was.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a piece on social commentary wedged into the film for no reason other than let's do something socially provocative.
It's because David Gordon Green thinks he's a smart writer.
Yeah.
Evil dies tonight.
It was kind of just like drama for the sake of drama. Like, oh no, both our kids are missing and like we should work together, but ooh, like I don't like you because you're not white, and it's just like why? Like what? It's not really, you're not really saying anything by doing this, and nothing kind of ever, I don't know, nothing ever comes of it. It's just like
they started to play on an angle that it only lasted maybe like 5 or 10 seconds, but I thought it was an interesting approach where like when the 2 girls are missing and the parents are talking about it, like someone kind of insinuates like, okay, well, 2 girls and they're really good friends and they disappeared off into the woods and they're that age. And it's and Victor is just like, oh, well, I'm just more worried about getting her home safe. And the other family's parents are like, oh, no, our daughter, no, one of the gays. Oh, God, no, that would never happen. It's like, they're taking like literally every angle possible for like how can we more accurately paint a pair of horns onto these fucking people's heads?
Yeah, exactly. And then
Like, you could have just had a little more tact with it, and I think been on to something, but
Yes.
ultimately it led nowhere because it was just, I guess it's just the trademark of this director.
Yeah, that is true.
And then Act 2 is
boy, we hit
basically
Act 2.
Act 2 is basically speedrunning possession.
Yes,
it is the first two acts of The Exorcist condensed into a single act, speedrunning it across two characters.
Two characters, yeah. And I'm sitting here trying to think of a good way to segue into our favorite line of the movie.
Oh, I got it.
Well.
So this movie decides to do the whole fucking legacy sequel shit, where they bring back a important character from a previous one. I'd say actor, but with TCM 2022, they didn't even bring back the fucking actor.
Yep.
Just
Don't you
a important character. I will. I will, because look, I will agree with you that TCM 2022 is a worse movie, but for me, Chris McNeil's handling in this movie is far worse than TCM 2022. Yes. It makes me mad because it's a fucking cameo at best. Spoilers, by the way. She's in the movie for like 3 minutes.
Yes.
And she's this old lady.
They had to dig Ellen Burstyn out of her grave for this movie, and she's not even dead.
Yes.
It's so, good God.
Basically, like at some point in the single dad, in Victor's desperation to try to figure out what's going on with his kid, he runs into an ex-nun.
Yeah, his neighbor. His neighbor's an ex-nun who's also a nurse. No,
she's the nurse.
Yeah.
So she talks to him about her, basically like she's clocked that like, oh, it's a demon. Like your daughter's possessed.
Well, yeah.
And she goes, hey, there's this book by this like lady who went through the same thing you're going through right now. And yeah, turns out she wrote a tell-all book about Reagan's experience, and that caused Reagan to hate her for reasons. And then basically Victor goes and meets up with her, and we get a little scene in her like beach bungalow.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was probably just Ellen Burstyn's actual house.
Probably, honestly. Like it was a little too nice for like I wrote an exorcism book 30 years ago, but
I can't be bothered to go on set somewhere. You can just come over here for, I don't know, an hour. I'll make you
Film
sandwiches,
me in a chair.
and then you get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But then basically at some point they're talking about like what to do, how to solve his daughter's possession, and Chris McNeil says like, basically like, oh, I don't actually have like hands-on experience like exercising anyone.
I didn't get to see what happened with my daughter.
Yeah, exactly. And then he like the guy asks like, oh, like why was that? And she tells him, if you ask me, I think it was their damn patriarchy.
And
it's like, ma'am, 2 priests died to save your daughter. Can you chill a little? Like
this is it's such a fucking insult to the original movie and the original character.
It's so insulting because it's like literally they didn't keep you out of the room because they're like, oh, a woman in our exorcism. They kept you out of the room because they're like, hey, there's a demon in your daughter, and if it gets out, it might kill you.
Yeah,
we're not equipped for this situation.
Yeah, like it might kill us, and we are equipped for this situation.
Yeah, or because of the fact that it's your
does kill them.
Because it's your daughter, you might do something stupid like undo the straps, like we see in all of these other fucking shitty Exorcist knockoffs or whatever.
Every shitty Exorcist knockoff is like the dad's in the room, and he's like, "Not my baby," and he like unties her chains and then gets his neck snapped. So it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe don't. Maybe stay outside, guys.
Yeah, it's really fucking dumb, especially.
What you're gonna go do surgery on her next?
Like
the surgeons and their damned patriarchy.
The movie
me out of Scrubs.
The movie honestly feels like it doesn't know that Chris McNeil was like an atheist, and like exorcism was literally her last fucking resort in the original movie, and that even when she asks to get an exorcist an exorcism, the priest tells her, no, take her to a psychiatrist. And it's like, no, she's at her wit's end. This is like her last possible fucking chance. Because when I say this movie speed runs the Exorcist possession shit, it really does that. Within like 5 minutes of the girls coming home, they're already doing creepy, spooky shit, and the parents of the white girl like, she's possessed by a demon, and then the nurse neighbor is like, she's possessed by a demon. Like it is just a Cliff Notes version of the first movie.
And here's the problem: you are speed running what to me is the best part of any exorcism movie.
Yeah.
You establish the victim, you establish the ritual, the inciting event, give that a good 20, 30 minutes. And then I want the bulk of a good exorcism movie to be like an hour of shit just getting incrementally worse and worse and worse until a big deserved payoff.
Yeah.
Whereas this condensed that whole building, the stakes process into like a 25-minute portion in the center of the movie. It's like the best part of any zombie outbreak movie, to me, is not the big final, like, let's stock up on weapons and ammo and make a fight. And no, the best shit in a zombie film is the early stages of the outbreak.
Yes.
When it's, oh shit, what's all the news outlets are reporting trouble, and who do I trust? And oh, my neighbor Jimmy's chewing on my leg. Like, why would you condense that into 10 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. You're getting the slow build up to the shit hitting the fan, not just constant shit being thrown at a fan.
Yeah, so this
not
this
to mention
had a very misguided plot structure.
Not even just also the misguided plot structure, but a misguided setup in the first place, because it's speed running two different possessions. Because so it's like there's very little fucking character development. There's very little build up. It's doing twice the amount of work. And like one of the things which I find really ironic with this particular movie is the fact that when William Peter Blatty was trying to get Exorcist 3 off the ground, right? The producers of one studio, or maybe it was even Morgan Creek, I don't know, but just one group of producers who he approached to get it off the ground, were trying to convince him to make a sequel where Reagan is now an adult woman who gives birth to twins, and the twins are both possessed. Because twice the demons, twice the exorcisms, twice the possessions, and William Peter Blatty basically told him to fuck off because it's a fucking stupid idea. And now here we are, 30 fucking years later, and they're doing two-girl possession again. God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Chris McNeil gets her eyes gouged out.
Yeah. Chris McNeil goes to their house, immediately is like I'll walk in the room and talk to the demon. She
oh my god.
She tries to exorcise it by invoking the name of her daughter, which, is written in all of the exorcism rites. That's
all the
that's
ancient text.
Yeah. And then it gouges her eyes out, and we cut to her in the hospital for a scene of her being like, I'm connected to the girls now, and then we never see her again.
What you see, it's such a powerful invocation. They can't just flagrantly use it. Like remember back in the day when people said Nero was possessed by the devil, and that's why he played the fiddle while Rome burned? No one was there to invoke the name of Reagan to stop him.
Oh my god, you're right.
Rome burned because no one could invoke the holy name of
like,
Reagan.
It really feels like it's just shoehorned in. This could have easily been any generic exorcism movie.
Yeah.
And then they crowbarred in Chris McNeil for 5 minutes of fucking screen time.
Yeah.
To make it appear to be a legacy sequel.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I will preface by saying, so far, because Act 1 is actually pretty good, Act 2 loses its footing a lot, but also isn't, like, complete garbage, and we're gonna get into Act 3 in a minute, but basically, like, the first two acts, you can already just say that, like, I'm gonna say it. It's better than like 90% of the fucking exorcism bullshit that like comes out onto streaming services. Like,
Sure.
you know, like, yeah, there's a couple of really good ones James and I have, you know, talked about before, like the one that's the courtroom case, the last exorcism, right? Or like
that's the Exorcism of
Emily Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, and then there's a couple of them that
The
are
last
good,
Exorcism
that are-
with Patrick Fabian is fantastic until it stops being good
yes
for the last
correct.
5 minutes of the movie.
Correct, yes. But like it's that, like, most of them are complete fucking trash. And so this already, like, if they had just focused, if we didn't have Chris McNeil show back up in the middle of Act 2 to be like, aha, I'm the expert. If we didn't have that, this would have already been a better exorcism movie than like 90% of exorcism movies. It's just you need to like you needed to focus on what it was. Like Lee was saying, be like tactful and, you know, just kind of like build up those two things and, you know, maybe sort of pay off the drama that you've set up already with, like, you know, the actual real world, like, racism and shit, you know? Like, you could do that if you didn't just be like, it's an exorcism sequel.
She just felt so incredibly out of place. Like, I feel like when the first Halloween remake did this, or, you know, Legacy sequel, whatever, did this with Laurie, it felt appropriate. It felt cool.
Yeah,
you know?
the story was centered around her.
Flat. Right.
Exactly.
It's
this
not
was
just some cameo shit.
This was just wedging Ellen Burstyn into it. And I'm sorry, if I wanted to watch Ellen Burstyn just like meandering around set like she's, you know, like she's on the verge of a mental emotional breakdown, I'll just watch Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch this for
the only net benefit of Ellen Burstyn's inclusion in this movie is her condition to do the movie was a fuck ton of money, which she then promptly used to establish a scholarship for young actors going to school. And it's like, that is something that actually is nice, a nice thing to come out of this movie.
Grab the bag, honey.
I was just about to say, get that bag, girl, because
right.
I'm
slay queen.
I am very glad that she turned it into something so good. Because, man, if it was just that and it was just this glorified cameo of, like, she didn't want to do it, she got dragged into it, she didn't fucking get anything out of it, I would have been like,
oh, yeah, no,
fuck, girl, you deserve so much better.
She had turned down every single Exorcist offer in the past. And the thing that is upsetting, though, is, like, even though this is a good thing, like, a net benefit, right? She's 90 years old. This could be one of her last fucking performances. Getting her eyes gouged out in a shitty Exorcist sequel. I'm so mad.
Yeah. All right, but so then Act 3, guys.
Oh yeah, Act 3.
Oh yeah.
It's the everybody has to hold hands.
Yeah. So yeah.
If your whole movie is leading up to an ornate, elaborate exorcism set piece, you want to at least make sure you're doing that right. And not whatever the fuck this was.
So this movie, because I mean, again, I guess it's like a Catholic demon. It's like Pazuzu, the filmmakers, I guess, called it Pazuzu's girlfriend. I can't even remember the name of the fucking demon in this movie. I don't even think they say it in the fucking movie itself.
Cousin twice removed.
Anyways, I guess it's supposed to be a fucking Catholic demon. They never really identify what domination it's fucking from. But they're like, no, the only way to stop this is because there's exorcisms in every culture. So we need to get every culture's exorcists here. Yeah. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
So they assemble the fucking Exorcist Avengers. Okay, viewers, I need you to paint this picture in your mind. You've got like a Haitian sorceress. Okay? You've got Drew Carey. And you've got, for all intents and purposes, Joel Osteen.
Yeah, yes.
So
they bring in a priest. They bring in a priest very briefly and immediately body him, and it was the funniest thing.
Oh, no.
The actual hitter.
The priest has to dip at first. He's sitting outside on the front lawn crying because he's not allowed to go in, and then he goes in anyway, and they immediately CGI break his neck.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it was really funny.
for those of you thinking about watching this who are familiar with the Exorcist
Don't.
franchise, okay, I love Exorcist 3. I think Exorcist 3 is my favorite in the series. And Act 3, they bring in the biggest hitter of all time. They bring in this bad motherfucker straight from the Catholic Church. Like he swings his way into the fucking insane asylum. He's beating the demon with his dick. It's incredible. And then they try to like recapture that feeling in this movie of like, okay, let's bring in the word of God. Let's bring in his holy right hand down here in person to cast judgment on evil. And they murk this poor dude in like 15 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Also
Yep.
too,
Holy Christ.
when he refuses to do it, nurse neighbor ex nun is given the task to fill his place.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You know,
they're like
it's a good
you're
replacement.
close enough.
Yeah,
a woman
yeah.
who never made it past New
Our
Hampshire.
paladin
might
got bodied.
might as well stick
Let's bring in
fucking
the failed cleric.
might as well stick fucking Chris McNeil in a wheelchair and wheel her into the house so she can continue to fucking ineptly go in the name of my daughter.
There you go.
Anyways, this is all building up to a big stupid reveal where they're like, hey, you get to choose. One girl lives, one girl dies.
Oh my god,
And-
you guys, it's just like the beginning of the movie.
And naturally, you know, like the
Parallels.
dad,
Sophie's choice.
the Leslie or Dome Jr., he's like, no, I'm not gonna make a choice. And the mom of the white girl is like, no, I'm not gonna make a choice. And the demon starts doing spooky shit. And it's like, ooh, all the daughters are in pain, even though, like, it seems like the exorcism is working. It seems like it's actually working, potentially.
The demons are vomiting
maybe.
fart gas onto the ceiling or something.
And then the dad from the other room. And again, this is why you don't let the loved ones in the room during an exorcism. The dad from the other room goes, I choose my daughter. And then the demon's like, oopsie daisy, by choose I mean you choose who dies.
Wait, James, I need your trademark giggle. The like, exactly. The demon goes
You picked your daughter.
and drags the chosen daughter to hell.
Yeah.
Literally, it looks like the set that she shows up in looks like the same fucking hallway set from the new Hellraiser.
Yep.
Like, it looks
Just with some
identical.
water in it.
Yeah, and she gets fucking, like, you know, dragged down by demons, presumably to be tortured for all eternity, or, you know, until the sequel comes out where they go to hell to rescue her, because we know it's fucking coming.
Yeah,
Now,
Universal
look,
paid $400 million for this shit.
You should have just bridged the two multiverses. You know, bring this whole Legacy sequel franchise right in line with the Conjuring verse. Bring in Father
Bring the
Tuco.
Warrens in.
Bring in Raymond Cruz as
There
Father
you go.
fucking Tuco from Curse
There
of
you
La
go.
Llorona, and just beat the piss out of these little girls, and just fucking punch the 9-year-old in the face, and the demon will fly out of her. Have this thing wrapped up in 20 minutes,
And
There you
then
fucking
then we're
and then
getting
smoke a bunch of meth.
we get like the big fucking stupid wrap up where like the families are trying to rebuild and move on. And we get fucking stupid monologuing, and then we cut to fucking old lady Ellen Burstyn sitting in a fucking hospital room, and the door opens up, and she's like, "Oh, who's there?" And fucking it's Linda Blair
it's
for
the
her
ghoul.
Yeah.
Linda Blair for her obligatory
I
10-second
know.
cameo.
No.
And it's
I
just-
clapped when I saw her.
And there's gonna be 2 more of these fucking things.
Yep.
Now, hold on. I got a question here. I
Mm.
didn't pre-ask this to James before the podcast. Do you know, through any of the news grapevines or anything, if this is underperforming so much they're just gonna scrap the sequel?
No, because it's a Blumhouse movie.
God damn it! Of course it is.
It was made it was made on the cheap.
Uh-huh.
Like here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, outside of the fact that Universal they spent $400 million on buying the rights to do a trilogy. So they almost feel obligated probably to do this, right? This movie's budget was $30 million. which is on the higher end of a Blumhouse production, right? This movie has already made, in its 1 month out in theaters, $132 million. So, yeah, it's entirely possible. Like its marketing budget was obscene, but like, let's even just be generous and say like, okay, its marketing budget was $60 million, right? So like, overall production cost $90 million. That means it still made $40 million fucking dollars. There's most likely going to be a sequel, whether or not it's going to involve David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. Who the fuck knows? They were contracted for all 3 films, but who the fuck knows? But Exorcist Deceiver is still on the way for a 2025 release date.
Oh boy, the body and the blood, the body and the blood, the body and the blood.
The body and the blood. Oh, great.
Anyway, speaking of dead kids, let's talk about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah. All right. So this one was surprising for us.
Yeah. So we were originally gonna do this as like a big group viewing in the Goon in my Discord, and we still ended up doing that.
We still did.
But after we watched The Exorcist Believer, I was kind of like jonesing and being like, you know what? Let's have a double dose of garbage. Let's like, I'm just throwing this on now, and Kat and Lee were like, fuck it, yeah, let's do it.
I definitely was also like, yeah,
I
you know
kind
what?
of liked it. I kind of liked the movie.
I don't kind of like it. I like this movie.
There's elements of it.
This had no right to be good.
No, it had no right to be good. It's way better than I expected. There's elements of it that I wasn't too keen on, but for the most part, it's way fucking better than it had any fucking right to be.
Yes.
Way fucking better.
That is 100% true.
It feels like a passion project.
Exactly. It feels like it's one of those movies where you can, so like I personally have almost no exposure to Five Nights at Freddy's as a franchise. It never interested me at all. And it just like kind of passed me by. I didn't even really watch like Markiplier and like, you know, all the YouTubers who played it. It just was never interesting to me. But you can tell that it's like super interesting to these filmmakers, and like they put so much like care and consideration into every, like, yeah, there's a ton of jank to it, but like it's jank that feels like it's there for a purpose. You know, it's like somebody really, really, really liked doing like they liked making this.
It also
project had love.
It also feels like a film out of its time. It feels like a family or kids movie from the mid 80s. Back before everything was like sandblasted to shit and overly sanitized, because this movie has some shocking violence to it.
Yes,
like,
it does.
Like excluding the premise of fucking dead kids haunting spooky robots or whatever. There's a fucking spoilers, but somebody gets bisected.
Yeah.
It's
fucking eaten. And you
see it through shadow, but you then see their lower torso slam and hit the ground. Granted, it's in shadow a bit, so like you can't see the gore all that well, but god damn,
honestly,
13 kill, and it was like
it was
visceral. It was fucking great.
It was better than any kill that we saw in Exorcist Believer, of which there was one.
I think it's my kill of the year. That's my golden chainsaw to throw a dead meat out there. That's my golden chainsaw for the year.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So it's like the movie is basically kind of like a mix of various lore elements from what I can gather, predominantly being based off of the first game. We got Mike Schmidt, who's played by that guy from the Hunger Games.
The guy who has a whole like fan fiction written about like being on an island with him.
Trapped in an island with Josh Hutcherson.
That's the one.
Yeah. And he's Mike Schmidt, the security guard, and he's got a younger sister who I remember I mentioned this to Lee on our second viewing, where I theorized that he might actually be adopted. Mike's character.
Okay.
I forgot exactly why, but anyways, when he was a kid, his younger brother was abducted by Spooky McGillicuddy. We don't know who. And this entire time he's just like staring at a poster of North Dakota and being all like, I'm gonna dream of that stuff, of like that moment to try to like remember stuff.
I'm gonna use Inception to go back into the woods of like fucking Nebraska or something.
Yeah, and he has to.
Oh my god, it is basically an Inception. Jesus Christ!
He winds up getting a job through Matthew Lillard to work as a security guard at Five Nights at Freddy's, and then spooky stuff happens as he tries to figure out who abducted his younger brother, and figure out the mystery of the spooky puppets.
His main kind of focus in the movie is trying to keep custody of his younger sister because he's got a very cartoonishly evil aunt who's like, yeah, you're not fit to be a parental unit. Yeah.
She's twirling the mustache. She's fucking Auntie Ethel from Baldur's Gate. She's gnarly.
All right, I found the thing that I sent Lee, and it's specifically, I don't remember who he was saying it to, but Mike says in regards to the about his younger sister, her mother, as opposed to our mother. And like, because I know in FNAF lore, Mike Schmidt is actually William Afton's son, so he's technically fucking Matthew Lillard's kid, or at least that's the running theory. I think, I don't fucking know. Okay. It's a fucking tire fire, but the
lore is a guideline in this movie.
Yeah.
If you're a purist of this series, know going into it that if you're wanting a one-to-one adaptation of the game's lore, you're not going to get it.
No, you're not getting that.
Like we're doing the events of the first. Yeah, we're doing the events of mostly the first film here, with references to the second and third, and then a character straight out of the latest game, Security Breach, who is just completely out of time frame, but it's fine.
Yeah, well, and even like William Afton himself shows up, even though by the first game he's been dead for like a couple years at least, maybe 10 years. Who fucking cares? It's insanity. He's got to work at this closed down pizzeria, and the animatronics are haunted by spooky dead kids who will like mutilate people and butcher people, and he thinks that somehow he can figure out what happened with his baby brother, and meanwhile the dead kids are like, hey, your younger sister's kind of fun, we want her, we want to murder her.
Have her join us.
Yeah,
we'll tell you what happened to your totally not dead brother if you join it, if you give her to us. And it's like
yeah, it's kind of it's fun. That's the main takeaway for me. It's fun.
The plot's flimsy, and it doesn't matter because a movie like this doesn't need it to really be like this hard, rigid plot. Give the kid a reason to be in the fucking spooky restaurant. Throw some goons in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the angle with the aunt's even there. It's not really because we have any fear over, like, is Mike gonna keep custody of his sister? Like, no one gives a fuck about that.
It's literally to throw bodies.
The aunt is there to just supply the animatronics with bodies.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy, do they get supplied.
Couple are off screened, but the ones that aren't are surprisingly bloody and graphic for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, there's a killer cupcake who chews people's faces off. It's fucking great.
The movie thing that I like with about a dude strapped to a chair and a saw machine is going into his face.
Who was apparently originally supposed to be Markiplier's cameo.
Who was supposed to be Markiplier, which good move not having that work out, because I think that would have killed the immersion a little bit.
Yeah.
There's other shameless cameos in the movie that range from inoffensive to really glaringly obvious, but for the most part I'll excuse it because this movie kind of exists just because of internet memedom.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't think Five Nights at Freddy's would be anywhere near as popular as it is without those streamers, so it is kind of like, pay homage to where homage is due.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this movie is... Okay, this is... God, I'm gonna sound so old and I don't mean it this way, but this movie is kind of not meant for our generation. This movie is meant for,
Yeah.
like 10 years younger than us. Their impressions of the internet were different. They were raised
Yeah.
on Minecraft. I was raised in the dark waters of 4chan. Okay.
God.
I'm not the intended audience
Yeah.
here, but I'm still able to watch something like this and be like, yo, for a PG-13 horror movie, pretty fucking good. And I'm only going to say it once because I don't want my entire review of this film to revolve around it. So I'm just going to say it once and get it done with. I fucking love Matthew Lillard.
Oh yeah, he's great.
I love this
Hell yeah.
man so much. And
He's
he
amazing.
killed it.
He killed it.
Channeled his unhinged 13 ghosts energy.
Yeah, he
and
did.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Now
he
I'm going
did.
to try not to say anything else about Matthew Lillard for the rest of this review.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, back to your point about it not being made for our generation. I did see somebody like tweeting or something in reaction to this movie, basically saying like, yeah, it's not a diehard horror movie. It's a like your teenage kid's first introduction to horror movie. Right? Like it is literally, it's horror that's made to be digested by young kids who maybe did grow up on Five Nights at Freddy's as like, you know, the YouTube videos they'd have on in the background as, you know, just growing up, right? And it's just like that's it. Yeah, that's basically it. 100%.
This, like the fathers and mothers of the kids who are going to take their kids to see this are the ones who like got raised on Gremlins.
Yes,
and like, oh, this is a kids movie, but it's kind of fucking scary.
It's today's Gremlins, basically. Yeah, that's
that.
It. Yeah,
and I gotta throw some love out there for the way that they integrated the gameplay into this movie, because for those of you out there who've not played FNAF, or like watched any of the Scream compilations, is basically all they are. Your character is just situated in a control room of a security office, and all you're doing is pulling levers and watching cameras. That's the entire game. That's it. But this movie still found a way to incorporate little bits of that into the kills and the scares and the narrative, with direct callbacks to the game of like looking up into the cameras when like there should be no way that they know you're looking at the camera at that moment that they're glaring at it. Great little, like, if you get it, you understand it sort of moments. And it just pushes this whole love letter narrative. This is just, made with a lot of care and attention. Sure, it's going to miss the mark for people who don't give a shit about the source material.
Yeah.
Like I've got all the IMDb's pulled up, when we do this podcast, so that I know actors and directors and shit like that. And of everything that we're talking about, this has the lowest IMDb rating, which is fucking wild.
Yeah.
It's currently ranked number 1 popularity. It's actually topping the chart of IMDb right now for people who are talking about this or reviewing it or interested in it. And it's the lowest rated, but
yeah,
it ain't for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is like I think maybe I might be in that camp if I hadn't watched with you two who actually do know some of the lore stuff.
Okay.
Because I think I might have been a little bit more like lost. Because I remember asking a couple questions while we were watching, being like, "Who the fuck is that?" Or like, "What does that mean?" Or blah blah blah.
And to be fair, sometimes the answer to those questions were, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, exactly. And like, for the most part, I didn't, and like it was still a fun ride. But I could very easily see somebody getting maybe a little bogged down in like in some of the details, I think. And to also kind of like not just sing this movie's praises, because I will say it's definitely not like a perfect movie. It's not going to end up on like my top 10 list. It's just good, and it's an enjoyable time. And this is something I never thought I would say about any horror movie ever, but due to the nature of the source material, I feel like it was actually kind of a very big missed opportunity, and that is that there are very few jump scares in the movie.
Yes.
And yeah, and the ones that they do have are pretty good. But given that the whole game is just predicated on like that is the game, it's basically jump scares the game, I was kind of like, I sort of feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity, that you could have really taken that horror trope and kind of,
Done
like,
something with it.
Well, just really pushed it, because that's like your whole shtick, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
just really make it like, don't overdo it, but you could have, really done something. Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's was one of the 2 games that sort of pushed this whole subculture in Let's Plays and, YouTube gaming and everything, of watching people's reactions just to have the shit scared out of them. You watched Five Nights at Freddy's playthroughs to see people get jump scared, and you watched Amnesia playthroughs just for people being like really unsteady and uncomfortable.
Yes.
Those were the 2 games that kind of like pushed that whole thing. So yeah, you kind of have an expectation going into this of, oh god, all the scares are going to be jump scares. And instead the movie just tried not to really overtly scare you that much. Instead,
the only 3 jump scares that I can distinctly remember are all non-jump scares where nothing happens and it's just, oh, Balloon Boy's suddenly there.
No.
The only overt jump scare was the cupcake jumping at the kid's face.
I thought there was also one with Foxy.
Probably.
Well, he was standing at the other end of the hallway, and then he was like scatting, and then By scatting we mean musically, not shitting all over the place.
I think that counts.
But yeah, there's a particular shot that I really, really dug, where it's like the first real jump scare that they're playing for that effect of, one of the young hooligans is about to get killed. Chica appears and has the cupcake, who's this little animatronic asshole, and jumps at the kid's face, and we immediately cut to a shot of another goon throwing a chair through a pane of glass. And just something about the timing of it was so snappy that you just imagined the impact of that chair smashing through the glass being the cupcake smashing into that kid's face and chewing it off. And between that and the bisection, which were like within 5 minutes of each other, that's when I just took a step back and I'm like, oh fuck, oh no, I like this movie. Oh no, it's actually doing things.
Yeah.
It's not just jump scares.
It's also
it actually subverted my expectations.
It's incredibly well shot.
Yes.
Really strong cinematography.
It was actually it shocked us. I remember I think you literally said in the middle of us watching, being like, wow, why is the cinematography so good on this?
Yeah. The animatronic effects are really fucking goddamn solid.
Yeah.
They knocked it out of the park. The audio design for the animatronics was really, really fucking solid.
Yeah, the audio design was
they
really
felt
killer.
Chunky.
Yes.
They felt heavy.
Yeah. There were only a couple of instances where I remember hearing way too many mechanical sounds and for the movement. But for the most part, it was this God, it's giving so much weight and
the other thing,
real presence to the thing.
Yeah.
The other thing too that I read was they actually built 2 versions of the animatronics. For one was the standing puppet, and in instances where they needed to do something that was a little more movie and whatnot, it was a man in a suit.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Can't beat the classics, man.
Yeah. It's very, very, very effective.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, go watch FNAF. Surprisingly, or don't. I don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah, no, I'll give a review of Watch It. I dug this movie. Way more than I thought I would, and not just because of Matthew Lillard.
Yeah,
although he's great.
That was the hook for me, but everything else was the movie delivered. So
anyway, speaking of dead kids.
Oh my god, boys, it's the Nun
2.
Oh boy.
It's the Nun II.
Time for the ugly.
You see, for me, it's just the good, the ugly, and the ugly.
Well, you don't think that you didn't think that the Exorcist Believer was bad?
No, the Exorcist Believer is ugly. I hate both of these movies.
True. I will say though, even though it's in our ugly slot, cinematography was pretty good for the Nun II.
I agree with part of that, because in a lot of shots it was too fucking dark and I couldn't see shit.
Yes, the shots that were too dark were the typical stop making your fucking movies so fucking dark. But there was a lot of like really like nice lighting choices in some
So if you missed the previous episode earlier this year, we were mostly pleasantly surprised but not necessarily enthused with the first Nun.
I think you two liked it more than I did.
Yeah.
I had seen it before, and I had seen it solo, and it was...
I was angry with the film for not being terrible or not living up to its promise.
Yeah. I think I maybe oversold how bad it was.
Possibility of it. Like,
it
had the potential to be something really cool.
It
and
also...
it's mostly just boring.
It's mostly just boring.
It's not as boring as La Llorona, which I think is also, to its benefit, we partnered those two movies together, so it was like, wow, The Nun is pretty good in comparison.
Yeah.
but it's still not great.
If you've seen The Nun, you've basically seen this movie. Because it's mostly the same fucking movie, but it even has less of a reason to exist, because it's a stopgap movie, basically. It's kind of like those shitty, you know, that's what it is. It's basically like one of those shitty Hellraiser sequels that they arbitrarily make just to keep the rights to the franchise. But the key difference is they own this franchise right out. So, like, it doesn't. What's the rush? Like, because this movie literally has no point. It serves no point because, and there's no new piece of information given for like the wider Conjuring universe. The whole thing is, oh, Frenchie's possessed by the nun, but we knew that by watching The Conjuring 1, and we knew that by watching The Nun 1, and we know he's not going to be unpossessed. Not that that's a word or anything, but like he's not going to get exorcised because he's still possessed in The Conjuring, unless, you know, they make Nun 3 Nun harder, where he gets repossessed, as you were quipping, Kat.
Yes.
He's still possessed.
What I'm hoping is that there are 4 more sequels.
The only
during which time Frenchie gets possessed in every single one of them and exorcised in every single one of them until the final sequel he gets repossessed by Valak, so that we directly tie into the beginning of the Conjuring.
You know what? That's going to be the exorcism. They have to get him repossessed by Valak to push out another demon.
There you go. Perfect.
But yeah, the only noteworthy bit of information we get is the one character that Lee and I liked from the previous movie, Father Burke, the one who had potential. They decided to go, nah, LOL, he died off screen due to cholera.
Yeah, he
died off screen to cholera.
Yeah.
In between movies. It's just not, fuck you. I don't know the reason, I don't know if they reached out to him and he was like, no, I don't want to do another Nun movie.
Not fam.
I found my dignity.
Or they asked him and he asked for too much money, or maybe they just from the get-go were like, hey, let's not bring him back. I don't fucking know.
Money, period. They're like, oh no, we want you for free.
I don't know, but they already killed off the one character that I was interested in, and instead we're focusing on the Farmiga sister again and Frenchie in dual plots that eventually converge about the nun going across Europe and murdering people, because the nun barely did. The nun one of the criticisms I had with the first Nun, which I will say that this movie improved upon, even though I kind of hate this movie more than the first Nun, is that outside of like the opening suicide scene at the start of the Nun didn't do anything. The nun just kind of was walking around and being spooky and loud.
Oh, in this one? Within the first 20 minutes, she flambés a priest and snaps a child's neck, and we were like,
fuck yeah,
sold.
Yeah, the nun is actually killing people. It almost feels like a slasher movie, but you know, instead of having a fun slasher villain, it's just the stupid CGI shark monster, and occasionally a furry in blackface.
Bear with us. He's right.
Yeah.
It's and also if you've seen the movie or seen the promos for Blumhouse's Truth or Dare with those shitty CGI smiles, for whatever reason they give that to the nun in a bunch of scenes, and it's the worst.
The promos? I've seen the movie, James.
I haven't seen the movie. I've just seen the trailer, and I saw how terrible the smiles are.
Oh man,
And it looks awful.
It's a pretty mediocre movie.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the only thing that boggles me, boggles my mind, is like I know there's other movies with the Truth or Dare name or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the fact that it's the official title is Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, that they're taking ownership of it, and it's like, why of all movies? Why not Blumhouse's? Because I think Blumhouse did it. Blumhouse's Happy Death Day to You, or Blumhouse's Whiplash. Why Truth or Dare of all fucking things? Anyways, the nun basically faffs around for 2 fucking hours, occasionally murking people, and they try to build up more sympathy for Frenchie because he's like working at a school and there's some Stephen King bullies. And
who bully the adults for once,
yeah,
which was pretty great.
And he's trying to he's forming this friendship with one of the girls named Sophie, and like, oh, it's super cute and wholesome, and then their soundtrack choices like really start to imply it's a more romantic like grooming situation,
which is weird.
Really feels inappropriate.
It feels really weird, especially considering like the movie is also implying that he and Sophie's mom, who's a teacher at this school, have a romantic relationship. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? By the way, this is from the director of Conjuring 3 and Curse of La Llorona, to give you the idea of the talent behind the camera.
So one more time, bring in Father Tuco to handle this situation.
And it's
but then the screenwriting team is Akala Cooper, who did *Malignant*, and then the 2 writers behind *The Autopsy of Jane Doe*, which was like one of our favorite horror movies.
Although
it's just like,
I did also find out that apparently one of those 2 writers from *Autopsy of Jane Doe* wrote a bunch of episodes of *Fear the Walking Dead*, which I hear is fucking terrible. So
that's rough.
Maybe in that particular screenwriter's case, he lucked out. But that doesn't explain the other guy. But I can't find any information on the other guy because he doesn't have a Wikipedia page for some reason. And I'll be damned if I go to IMDb.
Sure.
But yeah, the nun faffs about and once appears as a shark.
Yeah.
Kind of.
There also, oh god, yes, that was literally that moment. Might like she looked like Morbius. She looked like a terrible CGI shark. It's gonna go down like in my history as one of my favorite.
You know, I'm looking at that screenshot.
CGI.
I'm looking at the screenshot that Lee posted. Maybe it's just my monitor, but it's so fucking dark too. Like you could barely
really
fucking
dark,
see anything. And even this shitpost image that Lee made of instead of the stupid shitty CGI smile, it's Trudeau in blackface. It's so fucking dark. You can't see
it's so
anything.
dark except for Trudeau.
I doctored it up. I didn't just slap the face on there.
Of course.
I did some touch-ups.
Yeah. But the movie itself is just, it's so like everything is dark.
Look, my lack of input on this movie is strictly because there's nothing to remark upon. When Saber is saying that there's no point to this film, we mean that objectively.
Yeah, there's no point.
No reason for a movie to exist at this point in the timeline because nothing is going to change.
Yes.
Instead, what we have is like spooky hallway sequence after spooky hallway sequence, accentuated by every 20 minutes or so, a kill that got surprisingly brutal, and we went, oh, gnarly, nice. Like, okay, burned the priest, cool. Killed the child, an elderly woman got beaten to death with an incense burner.
By a ghost kid.
And by a child, and then crushed with a hook. And we're like, yeah, rock on. Why can't more shit be happening in this movie? And then we just go back to Frenchie, just being French-Canadian.
It's like there's plenty of movies where it's just the original plus another one, which is what The Nun is, where the sequel feels no point. But like in some cases, the sequel can still be fun, and they can
Yes.
still like do something, I don't know, maybe mildly interesting, or at least turn your brain off and have fun with it. Like, the Friday the 13th movies are so fucking low budget and so fucking schlocky, right? But they're at least efficient at what they do, and I can understand why, like, those films have, like, a stronger audience or fan base, even though most of those films are just Jason plus another one. And occasionally
Yeah.
they do something really stupid, like send him into space.
Right.
But
yes.
in this movie, it's like, I genuinely do not know who the fuck would like this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is-
It's very.
It's a nothing movie.
Yeah. It is kind of just nothing. It does feel it. I mean, it's a horror movie that you go see to make out with your girlfriend in like the back, like
Yes.
row. You know, like it's that kind of movie basically, which is what a lot of the Conjuring verse has been. To be fair, for me, I do think that there's one specific shot in the movie that was in all the trailers because it is a compelling and like creative shot, and it's the magazine stand shot.
Yes.
But they kind of fumbled the bag in the actual execution in the movie because the editing in the trailer was like very dramatic, kind of quiet, kind of like, and they just turned it into this like frenetic, loud mess in the movie. And it was very just like,
Yeah, you trim that scene and remove the music, and it could have been an actual like
And it's-
spooky affected scene.
yeah, exactly. But they ruined it, frankly.
And then Lee also pointed out the fact that the build up to that scene, there's fucking letters in every shot to spell out Valak, and it's at
Yeah.
that point where
Yeah.
I went from mostly indifferent to this movie to I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
It's not La Llorona bad. It's not
Yeah.
Conjuring 3 bad. But
Yeah.
god damn it, I hate this movie.
So one of the big things with this movie is that, like, you know, and like part of the reason why James hates the fucking, you know, little Valak spelled on the walls like Easter egg thing, is because like the Conjuring movie that she originates from established that like when you know a demon's name, you have power over them. So like we already know the demon's name. We've known for quite a while. I don't think the characters do.
No.
But we do. And it's just kind of like, you're not teaching us anything new about this demon that is interesting.
No.
They try to. They try to add this like Saint Lucy subplot where like she's trying to get the eyes of Saint Lucy
MacGuffin.
are buried in this under this old monastery in Hungary, which surprise surprise was turned into the school that Frenchie's at. And like basically like the whole, so like first of all, there were a lot of weird musical choices. We already mentioned the romantic musical choices when when Frenchie and Sophie were interacting, but also there's like heist music occasionally when like the two nuns are doing stuff, and like it sounds like an Ocean's 11.
These
like,
two
is about to
movies,
happen.
these two movies are it's such a fucking tonal whiplash.
Yeah,
of, like,
it's like
of, like,
tonally
it
it doesn't
treats-
understand what it's trying to do.
It treats the Catholic Church like the mafia or the CIA. Because, like,
Yeah.
there's the first film where, like, Father Burke is being briefed and, like, sliding him the dossier across the table and being all dramatic and stuff like that. And, like, in this film, like, the cardinal or bishop or whatever who's briefing Formiga is just sitting there eating dinner like an Italian mob boss. Briefing his underlings about, I want you to get the papers, make them enough that they can't refuse.
into our territory.
Yeah, they were literally like, oh, this important guy wants to see you, and they bring her immediately to like him eating dinner, and I'm like, wow, power move.
Yeah, it's like
This Valak schmuck is disgracing the name of our good family.
remember in The Exorcist where Father Damien asks to do an exorcism, and it's just he goes to the one priest's office, and it's just casual setting,
And they're
and
like,
then
fuck off.
and then the other exorcist the other priest goes to the higher up priest, and it's just them in like an office in the church.
Yeah, because that's what most things that happen in the church just happen in fucking like very nondescript offices, because that's the entire fucking church, guys.
Yeah, there's no sliding dossiers or fucking like Italian like mafioso
Most of them
shit.
don't work in castles.
on.
Like
I want to play devil's advocate for a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
Now this might just because I'm a shameless fan of edgelord anime masterpiece Hellsing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love the trope that the Catholic Church has like a hidden sect of paladin.
Oh,
assassins.
sure. I love it too. If this movie did that. If this movie did that.
You're reading too far into this like bullshit where they're just like yeah, this is how they operate in broad daylight. And it's like no.
Also, hold on. I'm actually upset with you, Lee. You said playing devil's advocate. You should have said playing devil's advocate. You hack.
We were so close, boys.
We're so close. If this movie was about a secret sect of fucking paladin clerics fighting demons and shit, I'd be down.
Have you seen the Pope's Exorcist?
No, not yet.
Okay, I think we should watch the Pope's Exorcist next, because it's not a good movie. But they portray Father Amort like basically like that, like he's just some fucking traveling paladin where he just like doesn't give a fuck anymore.
All I know about it is
it's really funny.
All I know about it is it's Russell Crowe, and like 60% of his scenes are like driving a Vespa.
Yeah. Okay, not 60%, but yes, he drives a little Vespa, and it's
for. We should be watching this movie.
Look,
yeah.
What are we recording this shit for? We could have been watching David Fincher's The Killer.
That's true.
And we watched The Nun II.
Is that our next double feature? Did we just come up with the next Gooncast right now?
Well, I was gonna do it. Y'all
are watching magic happen.
I was waiting for Killers of the Flower Moon to drop, and we do a double. We do a Fincher Scorsese double feature.
Yeah, that's a good.
I'm with that. Yeah,
that's a good plan, actually.
Double
See,
the Killers.
folks, this is how we choose the pairings for these Gooncasts.
It's top of the hat.
It's nothing more elaborate.
It's usually somebody suggests something that is either good or terrible, and then
no
we
in between.
Then we pair it with something else, or we just shit it out like Irish Island or whatever.
Hell yeah! All right. I need to rant about one last thing with this movie.
Lay it on me.
And it was so like for the most part, I was pretty ambivalent toward this film, because I do feel like one, it's not as bad as the director's previous works, because Conjuring 3 was a fucking nightmare, and I hated the other. I forget what the other one.
La Llorona.
This is at least better than
La
Conjuring
Llorona.
3.
Yeah. Yes, it's at least better than Conjuring 3. It's definitely better than La Llorona.
Yes.
So that's fine. The ultimate climax of the movie is Valak gets his hands on the eyes because Frenchie has longer arms than the two nuns. He manages to absorb it and become, a stand user, essentially. Yeah. And yeah, it's basically like them fighting possessed Frenchie and Super Valak
and his stand Mariana Cross. Yeah.
Yes. And so but they're in like the basement of like this bell tower in the fucking old monastery, whatever. And they realize that like there's a bunch of wine that has been spilled from like that was like being stored in barrels down here. And the two nuns, who I believe are not actually like officially nuns yet. I think one of them.
Is. Irene is a nun.
Irene is a nun, but the other one is still novitiate, right?
Yeah.
So they decide that they're like, hey, we've got all this wine, like, and they basically have like oh, this is wine moment. And I was going, no, don't do it.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it. So they have the two nuns consecrate the wine so that it's holy and now the blood of Christ, so that it explodes and takes out Valak. Now, many of you might be saying, okay, that seems a little extra, but I don't see a problem with that. the Catholics in the audience, or the, recovering Catholics in the audience, are probably cringing the same way I did, because nuns can't fucking consecrate the Eucharist.
Hey, you keep you keep the damn patriarchy out of this.
It is
Cycling it back.
It's literally in our fucking dogma, or in Catholic fucking dogma, that the only way to do transubstantiation, which is the changing the bread and the wine into the body and blood of Jesus, which is literally what they believe happens. I was raised in this for fucking decades. It can only be done by an ordained priest. That is it. There I think was like one exception made at some point on like a mission trip in like the 80s or 90s. I remember hearing about this because we talked about it in Catholic school, where it's like, why can't nuns give the Eucharist? They can give it, they can't consecrate it. And there was one time where like women were ordained as priests because it was a mission trip and it was like an emergency, because like the one priest that was available like was like on his deathbed or something like that. So in order to like administer last rites, these nuns were ordained so that they could they could give the Eucharist, they could consecrate the Eucharist and give it as like a final thing. But that's not what's fucking happening here. They're just like, they literally read the rite like as you do at any Catholic mass, and it's implied that like, oh, this is now holy, it's now the blood of Christ, now we can defeat this demon. No.
I got two more brief things to mention, and then I never want to speak of this piece of shit ever again.
Yeah. My rant is over.
The first is, of course, the ending where Valak explodes, as Kat said, and Frenchie is saved. Except for, again, this is a fucking lie. This is pointless because we know he's still fucking possessed somehow, and Valak isn't fucking dead because she's still possessing Frenchie, and Valak dies in Conjuring 2 or whatever. Even though it's a demon, I don't think demons can be fucking killed. They can just be sent back to hell or whatever.
They just go back to hell.
And it's dumb. It's stupid. It's pointless. This movie is a waste of time. And then the mid-credits scene happens where Ed and Lorraine Warren just show up and answer the phone and are like, we got to get ready. And then it just cuts. I was like, what is this? Is this setting up going to interact with Frenchie? Is this setting up Conjuring 4? Is this setting up?
Like,
is this setting up fucking like anything? What is the point of this outside of just, hey, remember the Warrens?
Yeah. It was literally trying to be like, this is the Conjuring Avengers coming to town.
I think it was to bring us full circle to the beginning of Conjuring 1.
Yeah.
But still.
It's like, no. And Conjuring 1 was, they were exercising him in an insane asylum. So it still doesn't bring us full circle because he's cured. So they were just like, fuck Conjuring 1.
Don't watch this movie. It's a piece of shit.
No.
Just watch Conjuring 1 and 2 and then pretend. I haven't seen any of the Annabelle movies. I do want to see them at some point so I can pass judgment on them. But I'm assuming they're just as terrible. I'm assuming they're terrible.
There's one of them that's a passable film, and the rest of them are kind of garbage.
Just stick with Conjuring 1 and 2.
Stick with Axum.
And then watch Wish Upon.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck this movie.
Yeah. All right, so I think the verdicts are: don't watch The Exorcist Believer.
Correct.
Watch FNAF, surprisingly.
Surprisingly enough, yeah.
And don't watch The Nun II.
Absolutely don't watch The Nun II.
Yeah.
Yeah. FNAF is an enjoyable film, even if maybe you won't get scared, maybe you won't enjoy the, weird Five Nights at Freddy's lore.
Yeah,
that runs deep, but you'll have fun.
It's a charming enough movie that's got like it's fine enough for kids, even though it's a little intense. It's PG-13. It's not horror.
The only good thing I could say about Nun 2 is I thought the cinematography was mostly all right when it wasn't too dark. And the only good thing I could say about Exorcist Believer is that the first act and maybe the first half of Act 2 actually would have been a solid film.
The only good thing I can say about Exorcist Believer is at least a scholarship was founded by it. And
that's true too.
And the only good thing I can say about the Nun 2 is a furry in blackface went really hard.
phrases that you didn't think you were going to hear on the
All right,
Gooncast
I guess
today.
for context, at one
Yeah, I was
point
gonna say.
a fucking goat demon thing shows up unexplained,
They
unexpectedly.
kind
We don't
of-
know what
they-
the fuck it is. It just shows up.
Okay, no. I think
I
either
thought it
you or
was the thing
Lee-
from Annabelle.
no. Either you or Lee actually mentioned because the bully characters had like a moment with Sophie in like the closet where they were talking about like, oh, defy the devil. It's like it's like he'll show up as a goat and fucking murder you.
Something
Yeah.
like
I think that was the payoff for that, but it was
Yes.
really stupid.
It's really stupid. It doesn't matter. It shows up out of the fucking blue.
It sure does.
And it's a fucking it's clearly a man in like shitty prosthetics and shitty like fur glued to him or whatever. And it like I guess maybe since it's possibly not CGI, kudos for that. But they have him running around like a fucking goddamn gorilla. It's like Shakma, like a little monkey chasing you around, except for it's some fucking goat man thing. And the first thing I could think of, because I can't remember what you guys were I think you guys were making goat boy jokes or something like that.
For sure it was. Yeah.
The only thing I could think of when I saw it was just it looked like somebody in a fursuit in blackface, because that's what it looks like. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It looks really bad. Luckily, most of the shots it's in are very dark, so you don't see it that often. But yeah, that first shot was just like, ooh,
and
guys,
it also
you did not think that through. Did
It
you?
also has curled horns, and it somehow manages to impale somebody through a door with its curled horns. So we can only assume that it hung upside down on the ceiling with its back facing the door and headbutted the back of his skull against the door to get the horn to impale the lady.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't care.
It was rough. So yeah,
we lived
don't watch it.
deliciously.
Yeah, so you don't have to.
hmm
All right, y'all. What you been up to since the last episode?
I'll go first because it's pretty quick. Played this short proof of concept horror game called Don't Scream.
Oh god.
The gimmick is it's basically a walking sim jump scare simulator, but the gimmick is your microphone is connected to the game. And
so alien isolation.
Yeah, if the game detects you making noise above a certain threshold that it constitutes as a scream, you get a game over and have to start. And you have to walk, I think it's like, I don't know, 18 minutes, but the timer only starts when you're walking, and it only goes when you're walking. And this game's microphone settings are even more fucked up than Faz's. Like, I was like not making any fucking noise, and it was acting as if it was making noise. And there was even one instance where I wasn't even saying anything, and I just died immediately. And it's like I loaded in and died, and I wasn't even talking, because they're like, oh yeah, you could talk in a whisper. But it's like, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is like the idea is potentially like fine for you know, the YouTube spooky people who get startled at everything or whatever. But for me, it's like, for me, I'm not gonna get spooked by this shit. But like, if I can't, I was talking like this, and it would consider it a scream. So it's like I had to put it like the microphone to its lowest possible setting.
Jeez.
And it's like and the game could barely register it. And it's like, I'm sure some people would be like, oh, that's cheating. It's like, what do you want from me, man? I put it up any higher and I'm not saying anything and it counts as a scream. This is dumb. Anyways, it was dumb. Don't play it. And then the last thing that I will bring up is, I got a key for and finished a game called You Will Die Here Tonight. And it's a roguelite horror game that's kind of a throwback to old school survival horror. It's sort of a mix of like a top-down setting, and then when you go into combat, it kind of gets to a more arcadey House of the Dead style thing. It's heavily inspired by the first Resident Evil. Military squad goes to a mansion and there's zombies and shit like that. The big kicker, though, is I don't want to get too much into spoiler territory or whatnot. there's permadeath. So it's like if one of your squad dies, they will come back as a zombie, and you have to like deal with that. It's fine. It was a more interesting and fun little throwback than Nightmare of Decay, which was just references nonstop and it had no identity. This actually kind of has a unique plot going on, but I don't think the plot was as fleshed out as it could have been, because it seems like a lot of stuff was left vague in an unsatisfying way, and there's just a handful of gameplay elements that were kind of annoying. Like, you actually can't manually swap between characters. You have to actually allow one of your characters to die before you can swap to the next one, as far as I can tell. And that's mostly frustrating because a handful of characters can do specific abilities that the others can't. So it's like, you cannot upgrade any weaponry unless you play as one specific character, or you cannot create your own custom healing kits without playing as one character. And like, to get the true ending, you have to play as two other characters and do specific puzzles as those characters. It's like, it's a little tilting and frustrating to like try to lock that. Like, if you allow me to swap characters on a whim, then at least I could like it's more player favoring, and it's not dumb. It's like, well, I upgraded my weapons and I want to do this puzzle to access the true ending. Better go kill myself. It's kind of dumb, but it's overall it's fine. It's fun, spooky.
Okay. Cool.
Good shit. I've had a lean run lately, so I'll just throw mine out there. I have mentioned it on the podcast before when we've done the Golden Rockos, but a new season of Dragula has started. This was the horror-themed drag competition that I was super big on after its 4th season, and then super disappointed with after its like heavy hitters, they called it Titans episodes. But they've started their official 5th season. They only have 2 episodes out so far, and it is a good field. There's some stiff competition. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Cool. They're leaning a little more towards the artistic direction than the catty bitchiness direction, which was my major criticism about the show. So it's looking good so far. My early pick for victory is Throb Zombie. So we're gonna see how that plays out for Throb.
Nice.
So that's been great so far. I honestly haven't been doing a whole hell of a lot, which I'm kind of okay with. I have been working a lot on a book lately, and a lot of my spare time just kind of goes towards writing that. I wish there was some kind of juicy little tidbit about something I could throw out there, but I will say, because I do want to talk about something tangentially related, Saber has been playing Alan Wake 2. And because of Alan Wake 2, I've been digging on the new EP from the Old Gods of Asgard.
Nice.
It is just a 3-song EP, but holy fuck is it spicy.
Hell yeah.
It's spicy.
It's spicy.
It's the alter ego personas of one of our favorite bands, Poets of the Fall. And it's just very, very proggy rock and roll, just, not too heavy, not too light, just right in that sweet spot with the most underrated vocalist in rock today, Marco Seresto. Fucking great. Other than that, not a whole lot. Kat, what you got going on?
Well, I too am trying to get some writing done for this lovely National Novel Writing Month, but
NaNoWriMo, baby.
It's going okay. So, but I have also been able to carve out some time to do a couple of things. I watched, there is a new Hell House LLC sequel.
I've been wanting to watch this.
So I don't know if you've seen any of the other. There's like, I think this is the 4th movie in this.
Yeah, I've watched the first one.
Yeah, so yeah, I've seen all of them. And they're obviously of pretty varying quality. This one was it was okay. Mostly like it did tie into the Abaddon, but most of it took place in like a house. And I'm kind of like, hey guys, part of the interesting thing about this particular franchise is that it's like a haunted attraction that is also that is really haunted, or really a gateway to hell or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's like if it's just a house that's tangentially related to the hotel that has has some people doing like spooky Halloween style showmanship in it, like it's not really, it's kind of just a found footage movie now.
Right.
But it was fun. It was still fun. Then in terms of, so I as part of my like writing stuff, I like to have like background noise. So I found a TV show that is providing excellent background noise, even though it's like it never lets up the gas and every single scene is as dramatic as fucking possible. I started watching, it's called Designated Survivor.
Okay.
And it's a like political drama where Kiefer Sutherland is a like cabinet member or senator or something like that, where he's the guy who's like stuck in a room while like all of Congress and the president and stuff are meeting at the Capitol building. And surprise, surprise, the first scene of the show is the Capitol building gets bombed and everyone in it dies.
Oh yeah,
So,
I heard
like,
about this.
the whole government is gone in an instant, and it's about like him as the new president trying to like pick up the pieces and reconstruct everything and figure out who attacked us and blah blah blah. And it's like, again, it's like a mile a minute. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the setup is I can't remember the name of it, but like the setup of
Designated
it is
Survivor.
No, I'm talking about the thing that the setup is similar to one of the Tom Clancy movies. Not movies, books actually. Where like the entirety of like Congress or like then the president is like killed off. Mm-hmm. And the head of the CIA ends up, who's Jack Ryan, the head of the CIA ends up becoming president because of it, because of this giant terrorist attack.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it's like, that was one of the thing where it's like, oh, it's like that one Jack Ryan book, except for it's with a different political position, and it's Kiefer Sutherland.
and it's Kiefer Sutherland. So like I basically jumped on it because I'm just like, hey, it's Kiefer Sutherland. It feels like it might be 24 adjacent. That sounds like exactly the perfect thing to just kind of like focus.
Sure.
And it is. So it was it's fun. It's stupid and fun. And I love it. And the other thing I've been doing is I've been doing a lot of gaming. Mostly I just like, while I'm working, I will have like a, an hour and a half lunch break, and I'll scoot my chair over and pop into Baldur's for a bit. Which I did get 100% of the achievements for.
Yes.
So now I'm like putting it away, which is kind of sad for me, but I might come back and platinum it on PlayStation maybe, but we'll see. The other thing, so I did platinum Spider-Man 2 recently, which was pretty good. I'm not a big fan of the combat for those games, so I had it just on very easy, just to kind of like breeze through it. And it was very doable on very easy, and I had a really fun time just like swinging around the city, and the story was like compelling enough. I don't think it's necessarily like anything to write, like it's not going to be on my game of the year or my top 10 of the year list. But it was definitely entertaining, and yeah, I have a lot of friends who worked on it, so I'm like, and James actually is one of them. So
yeah, no comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just like, hey, it was fine. It was decent. And then I played the new Modern Warfare 3.
Oh.
So
let loose all your frustrations.
Yeah. So I didn't pay money for either of these. I got them as free codes from my job. But yeah, so Modern Warfare 3, I know there's been a bunch of discussions online, a bunch of like rumors swirling and stuff that like it was originally planned as DLC and it was like expanded on, and apparently like people have both confirmed and denied it from the dev team. So I'm just gonna say it's rumors right now. There's a lot of evidence that seems to indicate that it was originally DLC, especially given the trophy list and the lack of the platinum and all that stuff. The first egregious thing that happened was that downloading the campaign made me download something called Call of Duty Hub.
Yeah, it's part of Activision's
like a
new thing of trying to unify all of COD.
Yes, and it's basically a Warzone storefront. Essentially me trying to play the single player game that that is the thing I was interested in, tried to trick me, basically like hid my single player experience behind a bunch of different menus that were all trying to trick me into buying like a battle pass. So immediately off to a really bad start. Second, a lot of the game is really short. I spent 5 hours total, and I would say probably an hour of that was shitposting to these two guys, doing like, random meme shit. Then the other thing is that like the missions are all very like Warzone light, and like we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, and like we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast where I really liked the original Modern Warfare trilogy. It's like fucking batshit insane, but it's really fun. And specifically, I enjoyed like obviously the Price and Soap are like great characters, so you get to enjoy those characters. But part of it was also that like, hey, those characters do something big, and then you play as like a random fucking grunt somewhere in the world who's like dealing with the fallout of that.
Ramirez!
Yeah.
Do everything!
Yes, exactly. But like that's kind of the thing where it's just like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. That's completely done away with in this franchise, in this trilogy. It's just like all you care about is the 141, right? All you want to play as is the 141 and their allies, right? Like you don't care. All you're doing is like the fucking like, and that's the thing, like they don't really lean too far into the Zero Dark 30 shit, which was like the one good mission in like the first game. But they lean into these kind of like more espionage missions, like more one-man army type stuff, where it's just like that actually isn't really the interesting part of Modern Warfare, like of the original trilogy. So yeah, there's that, and then the ending was terrible, and
you're lucky you were even able to start it too. I saw this
apparently.
I saw this one video on Twitter of Dr. Disrespect trying to stream the campaign, and he clicks start campaign, and then it just booted him back to the main menu.
Jeez.
And he was trapped in this loop for 2 minutes. He's like, how the fuck do I start the game? What the fuck?
Yeah. You're not allowed to play.
Yeah.
Give us your money. Go fuck yourself.
It seems like I haven't played it myself, so I don't know, and I don't work at Activision, so I don't know anything, and even if I did, I couldn't say anything. Yeah. But just everything seems to be, this was an incredibly rushed fucking product.
Yes.
Like even excluding like personal preferences of like I dislike the narrative or the mission structure. It's just buggy.
I mean it's buggy and it feels and I will say it feels rushed on like all fronts, because narrative wise too it feels like they had to make something, so they just like spat it out kind of thing.
The word that I heard was some other COD game was struggling and it got delayed, and Activision refused to let out because I have my own theory as to why the game came out in the fucking way it did, and that's because of the fucking Microsoft merger, because all the execs are probably going to get shit canned. We know Bobby Kodak's going at the end of the year, right? And this is not the first time in this industry, or even any industry, where they rush out a product in order to make mad money before a deal closes. Like in this industry, from what I watched from Matt McMuscle's video, that's why Blood 2 is in the state that it's in. Its publisher was being bought out, and they needed it out the door ASAP in order to maximize profits.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, I think that I think that the like art is still really good. Like there is still like the devs who worked on this game still I think did a good job. Like they did the best I think they could have given the constraints that they were presumably under. It's very clear that like there's some new direction with the way that they want to do level design for these, where they're just making them basically like they're redoing Warzone maps and using them as single player maps, just filling them with bots and like putting in script logic. And it's kind of like, okay, I can see how that would be an effective like cost cutting tool. I could see how that would be an effective like, hey, you're playing through the story thing that happens in this mode that it's really not working though, guys. Like it's just not compelling to play through.
I heard that's also what Zombies is going to be. There's no new zombie map. It's literally just the previous Warzone map, but now with
which
zombies.
Again, I get it, but like, damn guys. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, because bringing back to like our villain, like best villains thing, like because Makarov, the original Makarov, was on my list for that because I really like the way he's like portrayed in those original trilogies. Sorry, Lee, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just I was remembering your list.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. So but this, and I'm not like, I'm definitely biased. So I'm not going to be like, oh, like this one's so much worse because I have nostalgia for the original. Because he's not worse. It's just that they did exactly what they've done with so many other cool villains recently. Most freshest in my mind being Vicious in the live action Cowboy Bebop and Sephiroth in the Final Fantasy VII remakes, where they think, oh, this is a cool villain, let's put more of him on screen. Mm-hmm. Like, let's give him more scenes and more dialogue and more things to do. And guys, when I am stuck in a level where I have to essentially like forced walk behind an enemy NPC who I've captured and is now yammering his fucking political ideology at me, I'm like, this is not interesting. Like, this is not like, and I have thought about like going back through the original trilogy and kind of like just like seeing just how much screen time he actually gets, and like, because I'm pretty sure like there are moments I know where he just like talks at you in like a section. Like I know specifically in like the Yuri flashbacks, I think that's what happens.
Yeah, but they also had
most part.
They also had more setup with Makarov because they introduced him in Modern Warfare 2.
Well,
but
yes,
his only on-screen appearance in Modern Warfare 2 is in No Russian. And then you don't hear from him again until Price calls him up to find where Shepard is.
Exactly. You hear from him on the phone, and I think to find Shepard, and I think that's it. I think he shows up twice in his first game, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, that's kind of how you do a villain compellingly. And I'm not gonna, like, because okay, spoiler alert, but Soap dies in this one again. And I'm not gonna say that like. Because I remember specifically when Modern Warfare 3 came out, a lot of people were mad about Soap's death because his last words are like intel, and it's kind of like, that's kind of stupid. But it was done really badly in this one too, guys.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, bitter about the first game with Soap's death because I thought it happened too early and I wasn't a fan of the circumstances behind it.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we had 3 games worth of buildup with Soap.
Exactly.
And
exactly. That's the biggest thing, is that like they built up Gaz instead for this trilogy because they didn't introduce Soap in the first game. They were just like, it's Price and Gaz, basically. So I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe they'll turn it on his head. Maybe Gaz is the one who died. But no, they introduced Soap. You only really get to know him in this game. And then they kill him, pretending like we're supposed to care about that. Pretending like we've known this character.
As I was mentioning to you off stream or off cast multiple times, inexplicably, they've decided to incorporate narrative elements into Warzone and make them canonical.
Oh my god, dude!
Modern Warfare 1 ends with a tease for Zakhaev, and we're like, Zakhaev is going to be the main bad guy of Modern Warfare 2. And then what happens? He's the bad guy of Warzone, and he's killed in Warzone.
Yeah, he's killed in a Warzone season. Yeah. Oh, James, the frustration I felt when not one, but two characters that died in previous games in Modern Warfare 1 and 2 are just inexplicably back in Modern Warfare 3 with no explanation. Literally, like Graves, who was like the basically the twist villain of 2, the sort of shepherd stand-in, if you will. He's just back. He blew up in a tank last fucking game, but he's back, and they make like one comment about it, and then they're just like, don't worry about it, and they keep going. And I'm like, no, guys, like you can't do that shit.
And then Alex was he stayed behind for the stupid heroic sacrifice in Modern Warfare 1 and exploded.
And then they just brought him back in Warzone.
Yeah, and it's like, my guys, this is fucking dumb. Like,
yeah, I'm genuinely half expecting Soap to be back next game.
Yeah, same.
Like,
the other
they shot him in the head twice, but I expect him to be back.
That's one of the other things too, is on top of just you have more time to build up Soap, you have more time to build up the camaraderie between Soap and Price. Because, like, look, as much as like Call of Duty and even the original Modern Warfare trilogy get dunked on, right? Mm-hmm. The whole shit, the little mini arc between Soap and Price and the M1911 across all three games, it's strong fucking storytelling. It's Price's sidearm in Modern Warfare 1, and then at the end of the game, after like when everything is hitting the fan and shit's going down and your team is all fucked up and Zakayev is trying to he's killing Griggs, he's killing Gaz, he's about to kill Price. Price slides you the M1911, his pistol, and you pick it up and you kill Zakayev, and then Price is arrested and taken into a gulag. And then for Modern Warfare 2, Soap is your commanding officer, because you're primarily playing as Roach. And then when you rescue Price from the gulag, the very first fucking thing Soap does is he pulls out that same 1911 and gives it to Price. And it's like, oh, that's a cute little Easter egg and reference for fans to get without making a big deal out of it. Like, they don't call super attention to it. And then when Soap fucking dies in Modern Warfare 3, first thing Price does, he pulls out his 1911 and shoves it in Soap's hands and rests it on his chest. Because, like, there's a bond between the two of them, and there's a bond with this stupid little gun. And it's like, this is a nice little thing, something far deeper, I think, than most people would expect in a Call of Duty game. I'm not as someone who hasn't yet to play the new Modern Warfare 2 or 3, I'm not expecting anything like that, because everything is happening in fucking Warzone, which I don't want to fucking play.
Yeah, it doesn't, and frankly, like, they chose to focus the franchise elsewhere. Like, they chose to focus on something else, but then they're just like, oh, just kidding, we need the nostalgia points, let's bring it all back. So there's a really like lukewarm, like microwaved version rehash of No Russian in this that is like,
I did watch the scene of that, and it's
like, granted, like, I don't know what they could have done that would have been
I don't know what
decent.
I don't know what they could have done either, and I think, like, if this was not in a Call of Duty game, it would have been a fine enough scene. But it's like, I have a novel idea. Maybe just do something different entirely and don't try to copy No Russian if you're not going to do No Russian.
Exactly. It's just like, you don't do it. I mean, honestly, the fucking the second terrorist attack that you fucking foil in the like flashback with like when they finally catch Makarov is probably a better like scary set piece No Russian like homage than what they gave us like in the modern day thing. It's like, it's just like, this is it was so lame, and I'm just like, it was lame. They basically jammed No Russian with the
President's Plan in Modern Warfare 3.
They crashed the President's Plan, So
it seems like a really shitty.
I should expect to see this in the Golden Roccos.
Oh, absolutely. It's going in there. And like, the thing is, like, I feel bad dunking on it because I know how hard fucking game dev is, and I know that this is clearly the product of an absolute shit decision from like way up top.
Yeah, I feel bad for the developers, but I don't feel bad for dunking on it. I do want to play it. That's primarily because fuck Activision.
Yeah.
They're charging $70 for a 4-hour unfinished half-baked campaign and a buggy Warzone and a buggy multiplayer mode. There's no, and for you, like, again, as I pointed out to you, because Modern Warfare 3 technically came out to the normies, the poor people, on Friday, November 10th. The only way people could start playing it on the 3rd is if they dropped money for like the exclusive Vault Edition, which is like $90 to $150 or whatever. So you're paying 90, and from what I gather, multiplayer was inaccessible. You could only play a single player. Yeah. So you're paying $90 to $150 for a 4-hour half-baked, unfinished campaign that effectively feels like a DLC expansion. There was one, I think it was Reddit or maybe it was Twitter. I saw it in Young Ye's video where it's like Activision charges $70 for a 4-hour campaign, which feels like DLC, versus Capcom charging $10 for a 5-hour DLC that also has bonuses.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, it's very much also like, it's one of those like they can't keep getting away with this kind of things because like honestly like I'm bummed at the developers having to deal with this stuff. I'm not bummed at the company having to deal with this stuff because I truly hope it actually affects their bottom line and they don't get to fucking do this kind of crap again, because I hope this kind of shit goes the way of loot boxes, where do not release games every fucking year. Give people time to make something good.
my hope
make sure Game Freak gets that memo, please.
Yes, please.
Yes.
My hope is that with the Activision buyout, Microsoft will step in and maybe offer more support and maybe go like, hey, you don't need to get this shit out every fucking year.
Yeah.
Like, and especially a direct sequel within the span of one fucking year. Fuck off. Stop it. It's the same thing, like, just stop this annualization of shit. Even with sports games where it's literally just the same game, but with an updated roster. Stop it. Stop it. I hate it.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, that's what I've been up to for the most part. Oh, I also started Nier Automata, finally, after years of being bothered to start it. I have many thoughts, but I will keep them to myself for a later date once I've either finished or completely given up on the game. So that's your teaser for how well it's going.
I love it. I love how divisive it is.
Listen. I'm literally giving it a fair shake because I know I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. I know how much you two care about this game. It is just so not my kind of game that I'm really struggling.
Totally understandable.
But I'm trying.
Totally understandable.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right, you savages. Which one of us wants to take them out?
Well, not me.
Well, fuck it, I'll do it. This has been your
Okay.
boy Lee Alder. They call me the Valley Jester. You can catch me at twitch.tv/Valley Jester. I am going to be cooking up something for December to stream.
Well.
I don't really have an occasion for it. I just know it's been a hot minute since I've streamed it. So I might be breaking out a playthrough of Other Side.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Excellent.
We'll see how that goes. We'll see, we'll see if I stick with it.
Cool. And I'm Kat, okay, the Attack Cat. I don't have any streaming plans. I plan to keep. I mean, if anybody's interested in watching me play Baldur's Gate for the 800th time, I'll do it.
Hey.
But I'm just kind of like, I'm just chilling, occasionally streaming with James on his channel. We did Bloodborne yesterday. We're gonna do Mermaid Swamp again next week. Always down for Faz. So that's how I contribute to this squad.
Dead kids and furries in blackface. I'm done.
You heard it here, folks. dead kids, furries, and blackface.
Good night,
Catch you next time,
everyone.
fuckers.